Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting alongside us is Fill Me In Phil.
How you guys doing tonight?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we take control of the jawheads' minds as we cover our top 3 favorite movies about mind control.
You know, it'd be great right here, some theremin music, Phil. Excellent.
Ooh, perfect. Well done, Phil. It was like you were reading our minds.
You got to have theremin in any sort of mind control situation, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mind control is a great topic, isn't it, Matt?
If you say so.
I do.
That was my attempt at a mind control joke. Sorry.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Really terrible. It just came out flat.
I got to workshop it. Sorry. It's a great topic.
It is. We were just going to do maybe a one-off, ask our favorite mind control movie, but it's a rich topic in movies. So we are doing the top 3. And to help us with that, Matt, is going to be a great guest.
Yes. Dan Gardner is returning for his second time on Cinemajaw. He is the creator of an app, one of my favorite apps, actually, called Runpee. It's a movie app.
Runpee, huh?
Yeah. We'll talk to Dan all about it.
Yep. It's a great app.
Especially, for those of us with weak bladders who like to drink big beers in the movie theater.
Oh, right. Need to know what time to go pee? We're going to talk to Dan. He knows.
Yep.
Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, you know it, Ryan. It's still Adam Driver month, so we got another fact and another clip.
And we got 2 reviews this week, Suicide Squad and Respect.
Yes. The mind control aspect, our top 3 is coming from Suicide Squad. I'm sure most of the jawheads have seen the movie and get the reference here from the giant starfish.
Right. Well done. I think it's a good topic.
So we're celebrating Adam Driver this month because he has a new musical out. It's in limited release and will be hitting Amazon Prime on the 20th. It's entitled Annette. So I thought this is a good time, Matt, for you to take Dan on in female name movie trivia. Think of movie titles with just a female name.
Okay.
Like Annette.
Got it. Okay.
That's the topic.
I'm in. Sounds good.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. No joke there with mind control?
No, I couldn't think of one.
Before we get to Dan, let's kick it off with an Adam Driver fact.
Yes, this one I think Matt's going to like a lot, and then Ryan's going to probably roll his eyes because this could spawn a topic that Ryan does not. He's heard Matt and I talk about 1,000 times. But Adam Driver had a rebellious streak as a kid, apparently. When he was 17 years old, he rented the back room of his father's house for $200 a month and was not allowed to use the front entrance. I couldn't find why, like if there was an incident or something. But
he just never took his shoes off at the door, tracked him out through the house. That's my guess. Yeah.
I had assumed that all white people wear shoes in the house, to be honest.
No. Oh, man, no.
He also worked 3 jobs of his own, like his own entrepreneurial endeavors, mowing lawns, selling vacuums, and telemarketing, while also having like proper employment at the McDonald's to support himself. And he described in his own words his teenage years as one of misfit with rebellious attitude. He climbed radio towers, tried to set things on fire, and he would often dumpster dive for potato chips outside an old chip factory. And then also while in high school, he co-founded a fight club along with his friends.
Of course he did. A fight club. Adam Driver and a fight club.
I wonder we never did chips, but you guys ever go to a Dunkin' Donuts at like 2 a.m.?
Never.
And when they throw out all the donuts from the same day, we would do that all the time. Just take them out of the garbage.
I had some pretty low life friends that would call a pizza place like right before they closed, order a pizza, and then never pick it up, and they would throw it out at the end of the night and free pizza. Little
Terrible.
dumpster diving tip for the jawheads out there.
I have never done such rebellious acts as you guys are calling them.
Yeah, no, not you. You were straight and narrow, Rye.
I was.
Ryan, the movie guy, used to do bingo for old people with his weekends.
I think you really did, didn't you?
I did, of course. That's where we got that
God.
from. Yes, I worked at the local bingo hall for the church and helped old ladies win money.
You're the squarest dude I know, man.
But they would tip me $10 and I'd go right to my local movie theater and catch the latest Steven Spielberg.
Well done, as you should. As you should.
Yeah. All right. Let's get things rolling here. As you mentioned, Matt, we had Dan Gardner on before. He has an app. It is entitled Runpee, the app that tells you the best time to run and pee during a movie without missing the best scenes. Brilliant, Matt K. Brilliant. Dan Gardner, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on this week.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Rye.
Dan, I always like to inform the Jawheads where you're calling in from.
Yeah, I'm calling in from Asheville, North Carolina. Actually, just outside of Asheville in Sewananoah. That's a little bitty town, and here in Western North Carolina in the mountains.
Nice. Since the last time you were on, which I can't remember, Phil, throw it in the jaw box when Dan was on last. You have completely overhauled the app, built it back up from scratch. Is that right?
Yeah, we took my wife and I actually rebuilt it together last year, starting around May or so. And it was, so this is the crazy thing is the Runpee app it launched on July 4th, 2009.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many mobile apps older than the Runpee app. We were out there really, really early, but it was getting kind of dated. It was built on some old framework and stuff, and it just needed to be put to bed. So we rebuilt it. We're both developers, so
that's handy.
Yeah. I mean, we could never afford to pay developers to do the work that we do. So, so we rebuilt the app. It's looks much better because my wife designed it, and it performs much better. And it's the same data and it's the same general idea. We've got the built-in timer that lets you know. You start the timer when the movie begins, and it'll just notify you just a few seconds before each pee time, so you don't have to disturb people. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it do that by vibrating? I take it.
It's actually a notification. So it depends on your phone if you have remembered to set it on vibrate. If you turned off everything, then it's not going to notify you at all because it can't do it. But yeah, you just get a local notification. So if you remember to set it to vibrate, and if you put your phone in airplane mode, which most people should, you don't want to be disturbed during the movie, then you won't get other interruptions and stuff. But the Runpee notifications will still work.
Oh, that's handy. And as a user of this app, I can say, if you read the little pee time synopses before the movie, it kind of gives you cues. Like when this happens in the movie, you have 3 minutes to go to the bathroom and here's what you're going to miss.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, those are the cues. So you don't want to read the synopsis because first, you probably couldn't understand it out of context, but the synopsis is what you missed while you're away. So you
read that while you're in the bathroom.
Yeah. You press a button to go read that separately. And that's actually one of the hardest things about we have to add data to the app every single week. We do about 160 movies a year in a normal year. But trying to write the synopsis and keep it short, but so you got to keep it concise because people have to read it within 20, 30 seconds. They don't have time to read a long drawn out synopsis, but you got to include all the important stuff. So that's a real challenge to write. And they say that trying to write something and then try to cut it down by half is the hardest skill to learn. And we've really had a lot of practice at that, trying to keep the synopsis nice and short.
It's a great app because I noticed today, right before recording, I was at a screening of respect, which we'll talk about later on in the podcast. And I saw someone that probably was thinking they could hold it the whole time, right? They're not going to go to the bathroom. And now the movie clocks in at about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now we're at the finale. And I can tell, because I go to so many movies, I know this is the big moment. You know, this is going to be the conclusion. And someone gets up and goes to the bathroom because they probably just bad timing. At this point, they're going to go in their pants and they're running, they're running out of the theater because they realize too, I'm going at the worst time possible. So you get a Runpee app. It takes care of that.
Yeah. It's like an insurance policy. You don't want to use it, but if you need it, you really need it.
I mean, listen, I'll tell the story. I don't remember exactly when I first downloaded the app, but it was totally organic. Before I had met Dan, I went to the app store looking, it must have been just looking for movie apps or something. We're talking years ago. And I'm the kind of guy who sits on the aisle seat, because like I mentioned, I'm either drinking a big fountain drink or a beer or something, and I just have a weak bladder. I don't know. I'm like, once you break the seal, I at some point in the movie, I've got to go. And plus, once you start thinking about it, the psychology makes you need to go. So like, it's kind of like a silver bullet, knowing you can not miss something important, especially as a critic now. I have to not miss parts of the movie. So it's a really handy thing. I mean, totally recommend it. And one of the best features that we didn't even talk about yet, probably in all honesty, Dan, the one I use the most is to see if there's something worth staying for after the credits.
Yeah. So the P times, we have to make money, because it costs a lot of money to keep this going and stuff. But you could use these in-app P coins to view the P times. But that's the only thing you have to pay for. So if you want to know if there's anything extra, you could use the app for that. It's totally free. And, we give you details, like, we tell you how long are the credits. We tell you if there's anything, like the extra scene might come in the mid credits. My favorite one is these movies that have a mid credit and then extra credit scene at the very end.
Sure.
And people wait and they see the first one. Like, okay, well, there's the extra scene and we're out of here. And I'm sitting there like, no, there's more. You're going to miss the good one at the very, very end. And we don't tell you what happens, but we will kind of tell you like, yeah, you don't, there's just a little, sometimes it's not even a video, like there's just some audio at the end that is an extra. So it counts as an extra scene. We'll just say like, you just hear some animal sounds and you could go. You don't need to stick around for this one. Or, there's, in one of the Fast and Furious movies, there's like 5 extra scenes.
Oh my goodness.
Like, the extras in the credits was better than the movie, actually.
It's a not that high of a bar, I think.
To each his own, right?
Fair.
So now that we're back to movies playing in the theater, this obviously has to help the Runpee app, because that's when it's key when people are paying for a movie. Do you yourself get out and see all these movies, and that's how you're logging when to go pee and so forth?
Yeah, we go see. My wife and I typically go see the blockbuster movies. My sister, well, she gets stuck with all the other crap. No, I'm sorry. She likes horror movies. So bless her for loving horror movies, because otherwise there would just be this whole genre that would be missing from the Runpee app. I don't know what I would do without her. And then we've got a couple other people that have helped out over the years. It's not an easy thing. You can't just wing it. Like, you've got to sit there. You've got to have a timer going. So we need to know to the second when a P time starts and ends. In the app, it doesn't say like there's a P time at like 45 minutes. It's like there's a P time at 45 minutes and 15 seconds. And It lasts for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So we keep that, really precise. You've got to write down precisely what happens to be the visual cue that you've got to look for. Like, usually it's something like a line of dialogue that kind of stands out, or something visual that you can see that's like, okay, this is when the P time begins. So it's it's a chunk of work. Like it's hard to really enjoy the movie. It really detracts from it. So we will occasionally go see movies twice. We'll do the P times, and then we'll go back in and just sit and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to actually ask you that. So like the first time you're watching the film to get the research done, do you have like a notebook handy with like a light up pen or something? Yeah.
Yeah, we use our phone kind of to illuminate a little bit. We sit in the back corner so we don't disturb anybody. I've got to tell you, one of the sweetest stories. Like, we have the best fans. We've got, like, in the app, we've got the Infinity P coin. So if you love the app, you just can't live without it. It's $20 in app, and that's not cheap. And I've literally have people that email me and say, "That's not enough. How can I give you more money?"
So I get put a donate button in, Dan.
Well, there is. I had somebody, they asked me repeatedly if they could donate. And I'd always say, like, listen, just tell all of your friends about the app. That's all I can ask for. So finally I broke down and added a donate button. And, we've got like 5-6 people every month that add to, the donation. It's just really sweet. And I had this one lady email me during the COVID lockdown, and just out of the blue, she said, "I have to tell you, my husband and I sat down, we watched some movie, forgot what it was, but we turned on the Runpee app here at home just to make it feel like we were in the theater experience. Like, we wanted to replicate going to the movie theater so bad. We actually used the Runpee app while we were watching a movie at home." And I just wanted to share that with you. It's like, that just makes me feel so good. I mean, this isn't solving world peace or curing cancer. It's a first world problem, but, it's a small contribution to society. So it makes me feel really good to be able to get this out there.
That's awesome. I'm sure the Jawheads can figure it out, where to find it. But Dan, where should we send them if they are interested in downloading the app?
The easiest thing is just go to runpee.com, runpee.com. And there's an Android and iOS button at the very top. It's a no-brainer. So you don't have to worry about, searching for it in the stores. But obviously you can just go to the store and search for Runpee.
Do it, everybody. It's a great app, man. I've been a fan for a long time. It's great to see you again.
And you can use the app for free. We definitely made it so that if you just want to watch ads, that's why we added the P coin, because you don't want to get stuck with an ad during a movie. Mm-hmm. And so we've made it so that you could watch ads when you want to watch them and save your P coins and then use the P coins later. So that's the whole, point to adding that feature.
Right. And the Infinity P coin, like you said, unlocks everything forever. It's an infinite one-time price. So it's pretty handy for people who go to a lot of movies and have to pee. It's worth it. It's a small price to pay.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks. Runpee, do it, Jawheads. We are celebrating Adam Driver month here on Cinemajaw. So Dan, if there was a movie that Adam Driver starred in that you had to take the longest pee break and you didn't have to worry about missing anything because the movie's just no good, which Adam Driver movie would you say, forget it. I could go for an hour pee break.
Oh man, okay, so I've really dissed on some of the Star Wars, the new trilogy. And I've changed my mind on the middle one. The one directed by Rian Johnson, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I've changed my mind on that. It subverts your expectation. The women are the powerful leaders, the men are the screw ups. And so I didn't enjoy it the first time, but I appreciate it more as time has gone on, that it was some really good storytelling. I would have to say the last, and so this is how bad they are. I don't remember the names. Like, I grew
Rise
up
of
with Star Wars.
Skywalker. I have to refresh you. Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. The names of these movies are meaningless. And that last movie there were scenes in there, especially the fighting scenes. It's like, well, this is just going on forever. Like, could they could they have a sword fight in this cliff with ocean crashing? Like, yeah, okay, this was a pee time.
It's sad
Rise
but
of
true.
Skywalker.
Yeah, the sequel trilogy is deeply flawed. We could do an entire podcast just on that. We should too.
We will at some point, Matt, I'm sure.
Yeah. May the 4th, probably.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Dan is sitting in on this entire jaw. He has his top 3 mind control movies, and he also has seen Suicide Squad. And we'll put Dan on the spot and ask, when's the best time to go pee during Suicide Squad? So be prepared, Dan.
Yeah, right. Suicide Squad. So after no anticipation, Harley Quinn and her gang of misfits are back once again to save the world and preferably die trying. After the panned and flopped first installment, it's fair to ask what will be different this time around. Ryan and I squeezed into our super suits and bought some polka dots candy to find out.
I wouldn't take such extreme measures if this mission went more important than you could possibly imagine. Are you in or out? Good. Let's meet your team.
It's okay, I'm not okay.
Each member is chosen for his or her own completely unique set of abilities.
I need to feel the raindrops on my head, on my head.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Had to go number 2.
Good to know.
Is this thing a dog?
A dog? What kind of dog do you think it is, mate?
I'm gonna go with Afghan Hound.
Oh my god, is it a werewolf?
Yo, they sent me next to a werewolf! Yo, let me out!
Hey, he's not a werewolf, okay? He's a weasel. He's harmless. I mean, he's not harmless. He's killed 27 children, but, you know.
What's different about the Suicide Squad this time around? Arguably a better cast. True, the first had Will Smith, but we all know that he was in a searching phase of his career, trying to see if he could regain his Mr. Box Office title at the time. Alas. This time, we have John Cena, Margot Robbie, whose star is much higher this time around, Sylvester Stallone, Viola Davis is back, and Idris Elba. Not to mention small roles from Pete Davidson, Michael Rooker, and even Taika Waititi. The other major difference from the first Suicide Squad, this entry fully earns its R rating and is written and directed by James Gunn. I think it's that last difference that everyone is all a Twitter about. James Gunn has a track record of taking unknown, arguably stupid characters like talking trees and raccoons and turning them into box office gold and classics to boot. Hell, he made a believer out of Rye the Movie Guy, who's going to get bashed a lot in this review. All of the critics and fans alike were excited to see what Gunn could do with these characters like Polka Dot Man and Bloodsport. Could he turn this C-level troop into A-listers? Not exactly. The thing that most casual moviegoers aren't aware of is Slither. And even deeper, I'd be willing to bet big money that even Rye has never seen or even heard of Tromeo and Juliet. Those two films are perhaps the biggest building blocks in Gunn's career as an auteur. People going into the Suicide Squad expecting Guardians are going to get a healthy dose of anger, transgression, violence, and punk rock nihilism of trauma movies. And I was delighted by this. It's as if the studio, having more or less failed at building a cohesive universe, said, fuck it, do whatever you want. And with that cast and the filmmakers having absolutely nothing to lose, they gave us a big budget trauma movie. Suicide Squad is closer to gross out horror or splat stick comedy than it is to the superhero genre. In fact, if I had to compare it to tone and content to any other film, Toxic Avenger springs to mind. Heads explode, faces are torn off, people are literally ripped in half, and that's just in the Red Band trailer. There's more blood and guts in this movie than I have seen in any mainstream movie ever. And in fact, it may just be the most aggressive and gory big budget movie of all time, full stop. What makes it all the sweeter is the aforementioned fact that no one will be expecting exactly this. Sure, the bar was raised by Deadpool, but there's no way Marvel will ever have the guts to go this far. A new standard has been set, Ryan. The bait and switch is so deliciously aggro. I enjoyed this movie way more than I should have. Still, it's not without any flaws. Harley Quinn oddly, never hits her stride completely, and her story was the weakest of the bunch. But after being the best thing in 3 bad movies, perhaps being the one of the lesser things in a good movie was just bound to happen. It's a minor gripe. The good easily outweighs the bad here, and I can see Suicide Squad 2 becoming a cult classic. With this cast and crew, I'd be down for a third. What do you think, Rye?
Yeah, I may shock you here, Matt, and I have seen Slither.
I know you've seen Slither, but do you even know what Tromeo and Juliet is?
You've mentioned it on the show, but only because of that. But I will shock you with this statement here, Matt. This was one of the most enjoyable comic book movies to come along in years for me. I smiled and laughed from start to finish. James Gunn, he is exceptional at writing and directing movies with multiple team members. Ideally, a motley crew like Guardians and Suicide Squad. He does it better than anyone else right now. He gets the perfect tone, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. This is more of a comedy than an action film. And like you said, extremely gory, and I loved it as well. It was absurd. I didn't know anything about this villain, which we'll talk about as we dig a little bit deeper. When they finally revealed him and the way they revealed him, I was laughing and hooting. I was just having a ball. I loved the Suicide Squad. Dan, are you joining us with this love?
Yeah, I really did enjoy it. My wife and I watched it on HBO Max at home, which, by the way, makes it really nice to do P times, but that's a different story. So, yeah, I don't know how spoilery we want to get. Is there a limit here? We're going to draw the line.
Dance around major spoilers.
Okay. So, yeah, you already mentioned the ripping in half.
Yeah.
And that was my wife and I were sitting there like, what? No way.
Sick.
Like that was, it wasn't totally gross because it was done at a slight distance, but it was close enough that you saw plenty. And so that I thought that was the most tasteful way to do something very untasteful. What I would want to know, and so I did give the movie, I think, a B+ or a B+. What I'd want to ask is, who is the villain in this movie?
That's an interesting question. I mean, an argument could be made for Viola Davis's character, Waller, who's kind of pulling the strings of the Suicide Squad. She sort of steps beyond her ethical boundaries in this movie. Not that she had many to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, she was definitely the villain in the first movie, right? I mean, you see her motives and she's definitely got this evil streak. She was, if anything, maybe a little bit weaker this time around, her character anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And just wasn't as prevalent in this movie as she was in the first Suicide Squad. And I was okay with it. But I agree, she could have been the villain. The other one, obviously, the big one is, I guess his name is Starro. Is that correct, Matt?
Starro, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Starro is the Conqueror, I believe, or the Destroyer, one of those two.
So he's a giant starfish, which...
Correct.
When I was hearing this, because I think they reference him before we actually see him, I just thought, oh my God, this is so absurd. They can't possibly show this and it's going to work. It didn't just work. It was brilliant. When the starfish comes out, it became like at one point, one of the guys yells, "We got a kaiju out on the streets," and it became a kaiju movie for a moment there. And I mean, it worked. I couldn't believe that James Gunn pulled this off. To be honest,
it was better than King Kong versus Godzilla for that 10 minutes of film. Like, that was a better kaiju battle than we got from Godzilla, in my opinion. I mean, you see people flying and stuff. It was great. And yes, Starro is from the comics. He was a Justice League villain. There's some pretty good comics with him, actually. But I think Gunn treated him a little bit more comically, and it worked.
Right. And obviously the mind control feature here and why we're doing a top 3 on it is the starfish can let out these little mini starfishes, which get sucked onto people's faces and can take over their minds. It worked. The whole thing was shockingly very effective.
I agree. And how about how transgressive it was and violent? I mean, did you guys expect it to be what we saw? I mean, the dance between John Cena and Idris Elba when they invade the camp. I don't want to spoil anything, but they have this almost like a bit of a one-upsmanship scene
it was absolutely a one-upsmanship. I mean, that was.
It was one of my favorite parts. I mean, what a laugh. I mean, right? I mean, they're basically, killing people, one more shocking than the next. And then the joke that leads into was just absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
It really, really was, man. It was so good.
Let's dial it back to the opening of the movie. You mentioned Pete Davidson, and we're not going to go into major spoilers here, but I did not know exactly who was in the movie. I didn't follow along like I'm sure a lot of Jawheads know the cast and so forth. So when I put this on and I saw that Pete Davidson was in the movie, I thought, oh, cool. I didn't know he was in this. He'll probably fit in with a James Gunn type movie. So I'm not going to say spoiler alert. He dies very early on. It's a very hilarious joke. It's him and the weasel. And this weasel joke that they use in the beginning is just dynamite, right? And Gunn has the presence of mind, and he knows that it's going to hit. So he lets that thing breathe for a while, and it totally worked. I mean, when they cut back to the control room and they're asking, did anybody know if the weasel could swim? I hadn't laughed that out loud in a long time at a movie. That was one of the best jokes to come around. I swear to God, in a couple of years that I laughed that hard.
They set the tone so early, and they set the bar so high so early in this movie. That's usually kind of a recipe for disaster. Like, how do you keep that energy going? But damn it, if he didn't do it, man, he kept it going through the whole movie.
The ferret swimming joke. Does that throw you back to WKRP in Cincinnati?
with the turkeys.
I swear as God my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Wow, deep cut there from Dan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a youngin' like Phil, our producer here, doesn't even know what WKRP is.
He just confirmed that.
He doesn't have a clue, but I know what Dan's talking about for sure. Yeah, what a just a delightful film from start to finish. And the cast was great. I do think that Harley Quinn, I wouldn't say that she was a negative here, Matt, but I would say that we've come to expect a lot out of her character. And this movie it's not necessarily meaning to be the Harley Quinn show. There's a lot more going on. So I think they used her just the right amount. I didn't have an issue with her not being on screen or living up to the hype.
I will say that two of the most shockingly violent sequences in the film, and there's no lack thereof, are with Harley. Like when she's with the El Presidente guy, and that scene culminates. I don't want to spoil what happens, but I was shocked. And then her escape sequence, which you see just a bit of in the trailer with the flowers going behind her.
Oh,
and
I loved it.
The animation, brilliant. But yeah, there was a little bit of a lack of her comedy and her character coming out. This is not a Birds of Prey Harley Quinn. And that's okay. That's all right.
And one thing I give a lot of, I comment that Marvel has trouble with is some of their action sequences I don't think are as well choreographed as they should be. And I want to give James Gunn credit here for the ending sequence with that tower collapsing, and the way he shows it from one, some character's perspective, and then it goes back and it says a few minutes earlier, and we see what was happening with these other characters and the way the tower collapsed. Showing that on screen, I had no problem following it and was along for the ride. Action sequences like that aren't as easy to pull off, and he did it perfectly.
Yeah. So Christopher Nolan, if you're listening, take some notes, okay?
How about a jaw-dropping moment, Matt? You've already mentioned mine.
The jaw-dropping moment for me was when they finally get to Project Starfish, and we see the underground layer and just all the atrocities and horrors thereof. It was really, really gruesome. Like, I was not expecting it. Like, I'd already sat through an hour and a half or an hour 45 of this movie, and yet somehow they still took it up a notch. Wow. That was literally jaw-dropping. How about you?
Mine was the body being ripped in half.
Yeah.
I think that's when the movie is hitting on all cylinders, and it's just... again, yes, gory, but I think if you're along for the ride and you're enjoying it as much as I was, and it seems Matt and Dan, you guys were as well, that the gore there, I wasn't thinking like, wow, that's gory. I was just laughing. Like it goes into slow motion and you see what's going to happen, and loved it.
We didn't even talk much about Sylvester Stallone in this as Shark King. Brilliant. I mean,
nobody could have done that voice better than him. Just nailed it.
Totally.
I agree. And then the other jaw-dropping moment is seeing the giant starfish for the first time when it comes out in all its glory, and to think like, oh my God, he's going for it. And you could already tell he's got it. I loved it, man. Great.
I'm going to see this one again for sure.
I am too. Movie poster quote, Matt?
Hollywood has finally given us the first big budget trauma film.
I went with James Gunn fires off a bullseye.
How many jaws are you giving this one?
It's going to stun a lot of jaw heads. It's going to stun Matt K. 4 jaws.
Wow.
For the Suicide Squad.
Wow.
Big fan. I do want to mention, I always talk about watching a movie at the right time. Like slow burns, watch them on the weekend mornings or whatnot.
Yeah.
I did just come back from a week vacation down in Disney, and I was very happy, and I wanted to have sort of like a slap happy go kind of. I think attitude wise, it just hit at the right time. I watched this the Sunday after I got back, and it was almost like being on the same thrill rides I was just on down at Disney. I was just continuing that fun, That
said, though, in all honesty, your expectations had to have been kind of low, right? You hadn't done any research. You hadn't heard that this was doing well.
I didn't know. I know my James Gunn, and I know that I like the Guardians movie, the first one in particular, and I've seen Slither, and I mentioned how much I adored Slither. So I'm getting familiar. I saw, the first Suicide Squad, so I knew the characters, but that was about it. Add it all together, I had some high expectations.
Okay. All right. So Dan, I got to tell you a little story here. We were at C2E2. This is leading up to a challenge for Ryan. We were at C2E2, which is the Comic-Con here in Chicago. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we passed by a booth, and Lloyd Kaufman was standing there. And I was like, holy crap, it's Lloyd Kaufman. He's right there. And Ryan looks at me and he's like, who? I was,
there you go.
My heart fell. So Ryan, here's the challenge. Now that you've seen Slither, and now that you've enjoyed Suicide Squad so much, will you go and watch Tromeo and Juliet, or any really good trauma movie?
I'll do a Tromeo and Juliet. Yes.
All right. That's James Gunn, written and directed. He co-directed it with Lloyd Kaufman, but there you go. I am giving Suicide Squad 3.5 jaws. I'm shocked at your 4 jaw review, Ryan, but I am not taking anything away there. It's that strong. I really enjoyed it quite a bit.
Dan, we're on a 4 jaw scale. How many jaws you give it?
Okay, so it's really hard. What are we grading it against? If it's just movies in general, probably a 4, pretty close to it. If it's in the superhero genre, okay, so if we look at DC, it's the second best DC movie, easily, if not the best. But
now I'm curious, what do you put up there at number 1?
The first Wonder Woman.
Oh, for sure. Okay, I'll give you that.
And then, if we compare it to the MCU, I break the MCU up into thirds because, they did that to themselves. But, try to give a movie, does it fit in the top third of the MCU movies or the middle third? This would have fit in the middle third of the MCU for me. And another plug for the Runpee app. Have you ever looked at the People's Poll? And that's people with 2 E's.
Right.
Right. So we have a very unique opportunity because you presumably go into a movie to use the timer. You're using this as you're watching the movie. We can ask people, what is your expectation for this movie? And then when the movie's over, we can ask them, what grade would you give it, your final rating for this movie? And so for this movie, it's got a 7.7 out of 10 going in as an expectation, which is fairly low. Not super, but fairly low. And it comes out with an 8.1, which is
it's beating expectations.
Yeah. And that to me is one of the best metrics that you could get of a movie. Does it beat expectation? And in our data, probably 8 out of 10 beats expectation. Like it really sucks when a movie is lower than expectation. You know,
Right,
and
sure,
sometimes
yeah.
like, you know, people go in and give it a 6.5 and then they rate it a 5 coming out.
Oh.
Like their expectation was low and it falls even lower.
Yeah. For a Runpee time during the Suicide Squad, what's the best time people should go pee, Dan?
So we have our recommended pee time. So we have emergency pee times that, you know, if you got to go, you got to go, but you should have gone earlier when we told you to. But we've got 3 pee times for this movie. The middle one is at 42 minutes and 50 seconds. It's 4 minutes long, which is plenty of time. Should be. When Presidente Luna says to Harley Quinn, would you be so kind as to join me?
Yeah.
And so that begins that music montage.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that we love music montages. That's the, you know, anytime there's a music montage, boy, we're like making notes, like, please be a good long music montage. So yeah, you know, the synopsis is like, what is it? It's less than 100 words long, like a really short synopsis. It's very easy to summarize what happens. You can come right back and sit back down and enjoy the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that sort of speaks to what I was saying about Harley and that scene in particular. So,
Yeah. So digging a little bit deeper on the Suicide Squad 2, written and directed by James Gunn. Want to ask you guys, what makes James Gunn stand apart? We'll start with you, Matt.
transgression. I think I said that word too many times this podcast, but there it is. Gunn is an old school DIY filmmaker who got into big budget movies unscathed and unchanged. And that's such a rare animal. And his wit is so kind of, it's almost mean spirited, but it's mean spirited in a good spirited way. If that makes sense. Like he's mean to his characters for our enjoyment. And he's fun to watch. I think your assessment is also pretty accurate, Ryan, when you said he's so good in group scenarios. He knows how to give each of his characters something that makes them worth watching. You know, like a perfect example is Ratcatcher 2 in the Suicide Squad, who's just could have easily been a throwaway character, just meaningless, like so many of the characters in the first Suicide Squad. But yet she gets this short backstory with Taika Waititi that made her one of the hearts of this movie. And I think that's something that Gunn does the best. Plus, he can be so aggressive and different that it's something people haven't seen before.
Yeah, and even Polka Dot Man with his mom and the issues that he had, it worked. I mean,
brilliant.
It's very it's very short.
That might have been the grossest part of the movie was that mom stuff. Every time we saw his point of view.
Dan, James Gunn, what makes him stand apart?
Certainly the writing skills. I think that most movies that fail because the script was just trash, or I think it not necessarily trash, but they weren't done baking. I think that a lot of scripts get rushed, and they needed to go through another 6 months of revision. And somebody's like, okay, ship it. Let's make this movie. James Gunn, for whatever it takes, he gets it done. His scripts are really tight. His character building is spot on. But I think one thing that really sets him apart, that makes him work for these movies that are ensembles, is I really get the sense that the cast that works with him will jump off a cliff for him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you hear so much from the actors that have worked with him that they love him so much. You know, like there's just such a bond that they seem to form, and we don't get to see that, but you can kind of tell when the actors are having a good time with each other, when they're having a good time on set, that comes through, and when they're not, you can kind of tell that too. And man, he must be a blast to work with.
Yeah,
absolutely. Agree with what both you guys have said. I would also mention that he understands the material. really well and knows how to match it tonally. So he's never going to seem to like misfire, right? I mean, sometimes we've seen movies when we were doing our bad superhero movie and we watched Catwoman. And I remember we commented like, what were they even thinking? Like, that's not James Gunn. Gunn seems to like read the material and know exactly what kind of tone this film is supposed to have. And it works time and time again. So hats off to him.
Yeah, he's one of the most exciting filmmakers today, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Absurd plot with this giant starfish coming out and attacking everybody got me thinking about absurd plots in movies that actually work. One of your favorites. Do you got something, Dan? An absurd movie plot that works?
When you mentioned this topic to me, my mind went immediately to the core.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
This is when they go to the core of the planet, right?
Core of the planet.
With Hilary Swank, I think.
Yeah, Hilary Swank, Aaron Eckhart.
It's like a Jules Verne kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of. So they're saving the planet, but it is so ridiculously over the top. You're taking a spaceship essentially into the core of the planet to reboot. The core of the planet has slowed down because obviously the government did something they shouldn't have done and blah, 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 and scientists. But what I love about this movie is the scientists become superheroes. Well, not the superheroes. They become the heroes. They're just common, everyday men and women. The line by the French guy, he's like, we're trying to save the world. This is too much. I can't do this, but I'm just trying to save my family. Like, and it's really good dialogue, and they're as ridiculous as it sounds, it's real. They bring it down to a personal level. I love that movie.
Wow. I have never heard somebody come out with such passion for the core before. We'll give it to Dan. Matt, you got one?
Well, I'm going to have to rewatch the core if I ever saw it in the first place. So here's the absurd plot. A witness under government protection in the witness protection program is being escorted by an FBI agent on a flight to a safe house. And of course, the mob wants this witness rubbed out. So what genius plot do they hatch? Why not fill the cargo bay of this plane with hundreds and hundreds of dangerous snakes? That'll do the trick.
I can't even imagine what movie this is. I'm at a loss.
They weren't counting on Samuel L. Jackson being the FBI agent in question, because there's nothing that's going to stop him, not even snakes on a plane.
That is a good one right there.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Sometimes a plot is so stupid that it's embraced for its stupidity.
And that was it.
That was totally it.
Yeah. I'm going to take your cue, Matt, and I'm just going to give you the synopsis of my pick here. And that is this. In a dystopian society, single people must find a mate within 45 days or be transformed into an animal of their choice.
Ah, you're going with Lanthimos there, right?
Yorgos Lanthimos, 2015, gave us The Lobster. And that was with Colin Farrell. And it's just that. Him, John C. Reilly are in a hospital or some type of setting like a hospital or rehab center. They're single and they have to find a mate within 45 days or be turned into an animal of their choosing. And of course, one of them chooses the lobster, hence the title. But the movie has a lot to say, actually, on relationships and marriage. All of Yorgos Lanthimos movies, for the most part, are absurd, be it Dogtooth or The Killing of the Sacred Cow. But for my money, The Lobster, bizarre, but completely works. I love it.
That's a good pick, dude. Good one.
And I could have went Face Off, right? How bizarre is that? I mean, John Travolta and Nick Cage are changing faces. Really? And there's some people out there, there's conspiracy theorists. It was a convention right next to the Flat Earth Convention that believe that Nick Cage and John Travolta actually switched faces in real life. And they're just still in that other people's body.
Sounds plausible. Yeah.
More than likely, actually, now that I say it out loud. Being John Malkovich, also very strange.
Also a mind control movie, as it turns out.
Yes. Speaking of mind control, it is our top 3 this week. We're going to go kind of quick here, but just give us your number 3. We're going to go round robin, Dan. Mind control movies. There's a lot of them. What's your third favorite?
Well, it's one of my favorite movies, but V for Vendetta.
Brilliant.
Golf clap.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a big clap. Big clap. I love that movie. All right. I'm going with John Carpenter's They Live. It's arguably a mind control movie because the aliens sort of have the wool pulled over everybody's eyes, and they kind of bombard them with these subliminal messages: sleep, obey, spend money, reproduce, which I think was a comment obviously on commercialism, but one of my faves. How about you, Rai?
So I come out with a heavy hitter. I could be stealing somebody's number 1. It wouldn't be Matt's, but it might be Dan's because he seems to know his cinema. And this is 1962 we're going back to. It was one of the first big mind control movie thrillers. I'm going with The Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah.
And it starred Angela Lansbury and a young Frank Sinatra. And the plot on this one is a Korean War veteran gets captured by Soviets. He gets brainwashed. And when he comes back, he's part of a political family in the know. And he is basically used as an assassin to, take down American democracy.
Yeah, classic.
It was remade with Denzel Washington. The remake's not terrible, but it's definitely not as good as the original, The Manchurian Candidate, but one of my favorites.
Nice one.
It was also kind of remade with Salt, with her.
Yep, Angelina Jolie.
Right. That's very similar to Manchurian Candidate.
It's been aped and homaged many times, I believe.
It has.
Yeah. Salt takes it I guess a little bit further with they started training him as child,
Right.
To be sort of sleeper cells. But you're right, totally is one of them like that.
Okay, so our number 2.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
And I love that one because they're doing it to themselves. And the panic and it's not mind control done to somebody. It's mind control that is been done voluntarily to themselves and the repercussions of that.
It comes up often on the show. It's a top 10er of all time for me. So
yeah,
I adore the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do as well. It is a good pick. Maybe one of Jim Carrey's best of all time.
Down.
Definitely.
Hands down.
He's done some good stuff.
Oh, I'm not saying it. We could get in a huge argument on what is his best, but it's in the running.
It's the Truman Show
discussion
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, swinging it to my number 2, and there's a lot of mind control in the MCU. It's just recently Black Widow, right? But I'm gonna go with Captain America: The Winter Soldier, because we see Baron Zemo give is that the right character, Phil? Can I throw that in the fish tank? I think it's Zemo.
Mm-hmm. So.
Give the code that unlocks the Winter Soldier and gets him into killing mode, and the ramifications of that still echo to this day. With the character and with the show we just watched, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The trauma that he faced from being under this mind control, being brainwashed, was very well acted. So by Sebastian Stan, I like that one.
Nice. I'll give it to you because I know you love the MCU, and that was actually one of the better MCU movies. That's top tier, is it not, Dan?
Actually, I don't think so.
Wow, tough
Yeah,
crowd.
really?
Tough crowd here for Dan.
Well, I mean that top tier is really crowded. Like, what are you going to do with the last Thor movie? Yeah. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic.
It is.
I know, man. You're like really splitting hairs. I'm like, that's a really good movie, but is it top tier?
Yeah.
top third of the MCU.
I think it is.
I think it is as well.
Well, okay. The caveat here is the bottom tier doesn't suck. Okay.
Sure.
That's the thing that's really tough about this, because if you're gonna have to kick out some Infinity
There's some duds in
War
there,
or
Dan.
Thor.
There's some duds.
Yeah. Oh, for
What
sure.
about Iron
Like
Man 2? Dud.
Yeah,
Thor
yeah, for
2,
sure.
Dud.
The first Hulk down there.
Dud.
Yeah. No, the first two Thors are down there.
Wow.
But everything else is pretty much gold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, anyways,
All right.
you could use the same argument for Civil War, which is certainly in the top tier.
Yeah. If it's not top tier, it's top of the middle tier. Let's agree to that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back on track here with my
Okay,
number
back on
2
track.
mind control movie. This one actually just came out last year, and it just missed my top 10 of last year, and that is Possessor. This was directed by Brandon Cronenberg, son of David Cronenberg. I believe Possessor is still available to stream on Hulu. Can we throw that in the fish tank there, Phil? If Possessor is streaming, great premise for a movie here. It is about an assassin who takes control of other people's bodies to carry out her hits.
Oh yeah. That's
and
cool.
she does this through an implant installed in the unwitting host's brain. And where it really gets awesome is she gets a really big job to do. But in this job, the person's conscious that she is trying to overtake rebels against hers. And it's basically a battle in his mind of almost trying to kick her out of his brain. Real gory too. This is right up your alley, Matt.
I mean, Cronenberg as a name, as a franchise name, definitely turns my head.
Yeah. So if you like the idea of an assassin taking over someone else's mind to carry out their hits, check out Possessor. I love this one.
What year did it come out? Was this
last year? 2020. Yep.
Man, all right. I got to catch up with it.
All right, here it is. Our number 1 mind control movies. Dan, what do you got there?
When you brought this topic up, I went and I was like, well, what counts as mind control? Like, obviously Manchurian Candidate, was the first one that actually leapt to mind. So I kind of Googled and I looked at some lists and it's like, yeah, those are good choices. The Truman Show, which we mentioned, was definitely a consideration. And none of these lists mentioned Inception. And I don't know if Inception's about anything but mind control. Like Inception is mind control. I mean, that's the way I see it.
I agree.
So I mean, it's one of the best movies, period, in my book. So yeah, I'll go with Inception.
Nice pick. I did not actually think about it. I don't even have it written down as my honorable mentions, but I'm with you. It is mind control.
Ryan. I'm shocked you didn't. Yeah, I totally thought of Inception because you're right. It's implanting an idea in somebody's mind to control their actions, right? So
yeah,
totally. At number 1, this is the one that leapt to my mind right away. Get Out. When she's stirring the teacup with her spoon. Wow. I mean, that movie busted open a genre and really, really kind of it was just my favorite movie of the year. I couldn't believe it when it came out in February that Ryan was already saying I saw my favorite movie of the year that year. And I'm like, holy crap, I got to see this movie. And boy, were you right, dude.
Yep.
Get Out, I think will always be a classic. So great mind control movie. The Sunken Place. I mean, those scenes, who can forget them? They're sort of etched in our minds.
Fantastic. So at the beginning of this year, I decided to take a plunge and catch up on random 1970 movies that I have not seen, no particular order. I was just going through Amazon Prime. They have a lot of 70s movies. And I came across one that stars Warren Beatty. And I watched this movie, and it is so damn good that I'm highly recommending it. And it is my number 1 mind control movie. 1974, this movie came out, The Parallax View. And
I think I've heard of it.
It stars Warren Beatty. I didn't write down the director's name. Can we throw that in the fish tank, Phil? He directed All the President's Men. Same director. So Warren Beatty plays newspaper reporter with the help of his editor. He goes underground to infiltrate the Parallax Corporation, which uses mind control to train assassins. And these assassins carry out assassins against different political leaders. It has a great opening sequence on top of the Space Needle in Seattle.
Yeah.
And also it is known for this amazing 6-minute montage scene in which Beatty's character is forced to watch, but the montage actually then plays for the viewers. So we're watching it and it's almost like it's brainwashing us.
That's great.
It's a full set of 6 minutes. And I wrote this down from the Wikipedia page because it actually has a special note on this brainwashing scene. And it says that the scene juxtaposed the concepts of love, mother, father, home, enemy, and me. The montage captures the confusion of post-Kennedy America by demonstrating the decay of values and long-standing traditions. It's a wonderful moment in the movie and totally creepy, and loved it. This ending of the movie with Warren Beatty is great as well. So the parallax view.
I love a film within a film. It reminds me of The Ring with the cursed film.
Right.
How we saw it.
It is totally that, but it's like 6-minute montage that sort of warps your brain for a minute there.
Oh, dude, now I really got to see this.
Yeah. Honorable mentions.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Firestarter, the 1984 psychic powers film.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore?
Drew Barrymore. Yeah.
And George C. Scott.
George C. Scott.
Oh, it is George C. Scott.
And Martin Sheen was
Martin
the president
Sheen as
in that.
well. You're right.
So he
well
was the
done.
president of that and West Wing. We're watching that right now.
He pops up a lot as he's sort of presidential, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And the father is the one with the mind control powers, you know?
Right.
And whenever he uses them, his nose bleeds and it hurts him a lot. It was, I remember watching it as a kid, it's kind of horrific and disturbing. I love Firestarter.
I remember one that I had as an honorable mention. I saw this movie and it was like, oh my God, that is so creepy, because I was so afraid that somebody could have mind control this much. But it took place in The Naked Gun with O.J. Simpson. He is supposed to kill the queen at the baseball game.
That's right. Wow.
And I think the thing that was so crazy, it was like, oh my God, could you ever imagine, O.J. Simpson as a killer? It was impossible, And it was all played for laughs, but who knows? Maybe the mind control really worked.
Yeah. Life imitates art.
Yeah. Those were our favorite mind control movies. If you have Twitter pulled up, and we missed your favorite mind control, shoot us a tweet. We can't read your mind, so use Twitter. Or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. What we're going to do is take a quick break. When we come back, we have a review of Respect. Plus, Matt is taking Dan on in movie trivia. Stick with us.
Jawheads, it wasn't a matter of if we were going to talk about Kylo Ren, but when we were going to talk about Kylo Ren. Adam Driver burned down the house with his anger and rage and frustration with this character, but I think perhaps he was at his very best when he meets up with his dad and they have this confrontation.
Take off that mask. You don't need it.
What do you think you'll see if I do?
The face of my son.
Your son, he's gone.
Snoke is using you for your power. When he gets what he wants, he'll crush you. You know it's true.
It's too late.
No, it's not. Leave here with me. Come home.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Can you help me?
Yes, anything.
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with Dan Gardner, creator of the Runpee app. It is the app that tells you the best time to run and pee during a movie without missing the best scenes.
Dan, earlier you mentioned music montages as something you watch for. I was curious, are there any other things you look for when researching when the best times to pee are? What do you look for in a good pee time?
Well, when you're watching a movie, you're just kind of like with anytime there's a good cue, because you don't know what's coming next. So anytime there's a good cue, you kind of like note that down and you kind of start taking notes and you're hoping that you could get through, a good 3 minutes or so. But another pattern that shows up, and you guys will be very familiar with it, in action movies, before you get to the final battle, altercation, there's going to be the getting dressed or the getting suited up, or going to the place where this is going to happen. There's a calmness, that lull happens in almost every action movie. There's a calmness before you jump into this, and that's usually, if it's long enough, that's usually when we create at least an emergency pee time. Now, these scenes are, something that a lot of people are misled by is they think they're the boring scenes in a movie. And that would be the nice thing. Like, we would hope for that. But often they're the scenes that we could summarize so that you could come back and not feel like you've missed something, like a character.
Super important,
You can't have a character introduced during a pee time because that's not good. You certainly can't have a character die. And you really don't want to miss some of the sort of ephemeral moments of some bonding that might happen or whatever. So it gets really difficult. In a lot of action movies, we might use an action scene as a pee time and then have another pee time that is more of a character building. And, we can kind of like in the little meta there kind of describe and let the user know. It's like, okay, look, if you can feel good about missing not the best action scene, then use this action scene. It's a car chase, but it's not the great car chase in the movie. Or here's this character building scene that if you just don't want to miss any action, you could use that kind of a thing.
Well, let me tell you, this Runpee app is going to save me so much money on not having to buy diapers. I'm done with them.
Well
Dan,
done. Finally, Ryan, finally.
Yeah. Dan, again, for the jawheads that want to get the app and not miss the important scenes, where should we send them?
Go to Runpee, that's RUNPEE.com. And we've got two great big buttons up there at the top for the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
Perfect. Do it, jawheads. Yeah. Matt, before we get to our respect review and before we play trivia, we threw a few items into the fish tank. And I know Phil pees in the aquarium that we have him in the fish tank. But let's open up that fish tank and let him up.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. The great thing about being suspended in water, every time, both in my fictitious fish life and in real life, will pee in the pool. I don't care.
Jeez.
Ryan's nail on the head. Our first question in here, what was the last time that Dan had been on the show? That was all the way back in 2008 I'm sorry, 2018.
Okay, I was gonna say.
18.
That's before the app.
All the way back in 2018 for episode 367. Now, I will say, is a great time to go back and listen because there was so many, like, there's sequels to movies that were coming out then. Obviously, we're following up with Dan, and then we had talked about A Quiet Place and Ready Player One. So if you want to brush up on Ready Player Two or get yourself ready for, I hope maybe by now you've probably already seen Quiet Place 2, but both of those are relevant now still.
How about that?
Then we had a big gap between questions, but then it was very bottom heavy. So I was pretty frantic. Was it Baron Zemo in Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
We did not have him quite yet in Winter Soldier. That one was Alexander Pierce as the big bad. Robert Redfield playing the bad guy in that one.
Right.
Perfect.
Yes.
Not quite Zemo. That was the next one.
That was the next show.
Okay. Yeah, that was in Civil War.
That was Civil War. Okay. All right. Thanks, Phil.
Mm-hmm. I love this. Is Possessor on Hulu? Absolutely. It's on all the usual suspects to rent as well. But if you already got Hulu, it's in the subscription. You already paid for it. You can watch it literally right now.
I'm recommending that one, Jawheads.
And then another Ride the Movie Guy recommend, The Parallax View. Who directed it? That would be Alan J. Pacula. Also directed All the President's Men, as Ryan mentioned, and 1982 Sophie's Choice.
That's a peculiar
Clearly
name.
a guy with a good pedigree.
Was that everything?
That's all we got in here.
All right. Jump back in there, Phil.
You betcha.
Matt, before we get to trivia, I want to pay my respects to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, as I checked out the latest biopic entitled Respect. Now, Aretha Franklin passed away in 2018. Prior to her death, she was involved in the pre-production of her biopic titled Respect. She handpicked the person she wanted to portray her in the film. That person is Jennifer Hudson, Oscar winner for Dreamgirls. Is her performance enough to get people to the theater? I sat down in the choir to find out.
You're special, Ree. You have a talent they call genius.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me.
How old is she? She's 10, but her voice is going on 30, honey.
Let my go, let yourself be free.
How many albums have you had? 4. And no hits.
I need you to focus and avoid frivolous distractions.
Honey, find the songs that move you. Until you do that, you ain't going nowhere.
I need a change. I want to sing what I want to sing.
Matt, Respect is a standard biopic in every size and shape. And that is the biggest negative I have towards the film. What you think of when you hear Aretha Franklin getting her own biopic is probably the exact image of what this movie is. We've seen this time and time again with musicians and other artists where they start off early on in their career. We meet a very young Aretha, probably age 10, singing in her dad's choir. Now, her dad is played masterfully by Forrest Whitaker in the film.
Okay.
Does a great job. And we see the relationship she had with her mother, who eventually left, troubled family life, how she was influenced by her dad's choir. You get the classic shot from little girl singing in the choir, camera goes around, and all of a sudden it turns into the adult Aretha Franklin played by Jennifer Hudson. Right, almost cliche for how much that happens inside biopics.
Yeah.
And then from there, we see Aretha Franklin, the people that she knew, the civil rights movement was going on. She was involved with that. She would talk regularly with Martin Luther King, and she also had, husband that she had trouble with. Her recording career didn't start off as an instant success, as many artists do. She was 9 albums deep and really didn't have a major hit on her hands quite yet. People knew her, but she wasn't the superstar she was about to become. And this was all done before the age of like 25, 26 years old. She already had recorded like 9 albums. And it just goes through her career. And this is probably the worst thing that the film has to offer, is the way it is presented. It doesn't take any risks at all. It is pretty plain Jane as far as a biopic comes. Where it does succeed and the strengths of the movie come from the performances. Jennifer Hudson as Aretha Franklin, you can imagine. I mean, she sings beautifully and she belts out tune after tune. The theater had multiple applause breaks after Jennifer Hudson would be done singing one of Aretha's classic numbers. But not only is Jennifer Hudson great, the supporting cast, this is going to shock you, Matt, but we may be in the future saying at least Oscar nominee Marlon Wayans.
I told you. I think
that good in this. He plays her first husband, and he's just excellent. He's so good that I knew he was in the movie going in, watched the movie, and then in the credits, I was like, right, it's Marlon Wayans, because you almost forget he's that good. Also, Mark Maron pops up in this.
Oh, wow. Okay. Fellow podcaster.
Right. And plays Aretha Franklin's like record producer.
Sure. Perfect character for Maron.
Yeah. And he hits it absolutely perfect. Forrest Whitaker, as I mentioned, very strong as well. The musical numbers are great. It's shot, I pretty much standard biopic fare. I just wish it took a little bit more artistic risks in general, right? That's what it really needed. There's a song that she sings entitled "Think," which the chorus in the film, in the song, I should say, is freedom. You know it?
Yeah. Think about what you're trying to do to me. Yeah.
Freedom.
To think.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a
Great
moment.
Song.
Oh, I love it. And there's a moment in this movie. I think this is probably the what I wanted more out of it was this precise moment where Aretha Franklin is trying to break off from her husband, abusive, and she's singing this on stage, and then the music sort of drowns out and her voice sort of weakens and everything sort of gets dark as she's finding that confidence. And then it comes back even stronger. And it's like, wow, I wanted more of those kind of moments.
You wanted a little bit more like Rocket Man, something a little bit more conceptual.
Right. You need to do that with these biopics because they've just become so paint by numbers. Right. And this one is just that. And I will say it ends. There's an amazing Grace moment. Obviously, there's actually 2 moments where Amazing Grace is played. For the young jawheads out there that don't know, her recording of Amazing Grace in the gospel church in like 1972 is sold millions and millions of copies.
It's a gold standard. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. But prior to this, it's actually sung in the movie before she sings it in a very, what I would call a very showy scene. This is the moment if Jennifer Hudson, I don't think she's going to get another Oscar nomination, but maybe if she is going to, people are going to point to this scene. It's a very raw and showy scene. And it has another character singing Amazing Grace. And I'll tell you that the theater, which was sort of very lively, people like yelling stuff at the screen sometimes when she would finish a song and clapping. During that particular moment, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was really moved by the moment. And then, of course, it comes on at a later time when she actually sings it, and it's the hair on my arms was standing. So it does have moments where it really hits, but overall pretty paint by numbers for respect.
Sometimes the legacy of the artist overshadows the lack of imagination in a biopic. And I think, in all honesty, some of the more recent ones that got like praised come to mind, like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man 2. Yeah, I thought Rocket Man was kind of boring. And listen, I like Elton John a lot, and it was really fun to watch a giant Elton John music video And that's kind of what it was. That being said, they did get those accolades. They did get that praise. And maybe this is going to be the case with Respect, where just because we miss Aretha and her legacy is so important, this film is going to be lifted. And if I haven't seen it yet, but if Jennifer Hudson's performance is as good as you say it is, because those are some large shoes to fill, you know?
I mean,
you better know what you're doing if you start singing Aretha Franklin.
When I was watching it, I was actually thinking to myself, there's so few people that could have actually stepped up to the plate and played the role.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Jennifer Hudson. I don't even know who else you would go to after that. I mean, you really have to have the confidence to sing and have that presence on screen, because I mean, this is a, big.
It's a powerhouse performance.
It is. It is. And she pulled it off really well.
I mean, that alone, right there, that could be award worthy. So I got to see this one, man. My interest is piqued. Did you have a jaw dropping moment here?
Well, here's something, because Dan, you'll like this. You were talking about how we had the in the Runpee app things going on after the credits. This isn't really an after credit, but it's right when the credits start. Mm-hmm. They go to a wonderful performance of the actual Aretha Franklin.
Oh, nice.
Singing. And powerful. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Wow.
Good.
How about a quote?
Movie poster quote: "Pay your respect to the Queen of Soul."
There you
That's
go.
all I would go with. I am saying middle of the road for a biopic. 2.5 jaws for Respect.
Really?
Yeah. See it for the
But you were getting choked up at this review, man. I mean, obviously this affected you emotionally.
Well, the performance, I'll say this, the jaw-dropping moment of seeing Aretha Franklin sing at the end almost upstaged the movie, because I'd almost rather go back and watch
old
performance of her.
Sure.
Because it was so good. I mean, her performance is like, well, I'd rather watch that than watch somebody pretend to be Aretha Franklin. And we have the video of her doing some amazing things. They give these stats. I mean, I think she's the youngest person ever to receive the Kennedy honors. I mean, there's numerous stats that go on, and it's like, yeah, and she's singing and singing. One big flaw here, Matt, no mention at all of the Blues Brothers.
I was going to ask.
The movie ends before we get to her performance in the Blues Brothers. You do get a photo in the credits of, all of her life and stuff that she had touched. So you do get to see the Blues Brothers, but in the film itself, it doesn't come up.
So here we are in the year 2021, where Rye the Movie Guy gives Suicide Squad 2 4 stars.
Jaws.
And the Aretha Franklin biopic Respect 2.5.
2.5 jaws for Respect. There you go.
What a world. What a world.
I tell you, it is something. If you see Respect and you want to comment on this review, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw. Matt, you can hear the music playing. We like to end every podcast with some movie trivia. And in honor of Adam Driver's new movie, which also co-stars Marion Cotillard, Annette, we are playing female name title trivia. So think of movies with female names as the title. Got it?
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Dan, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt K go first. There are steals if the person doesn't know it. And if you do get hung up on a question, you get one Rescue Me Ryan. I have clues to help you out. And they do start off easy, Dan. You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start.
Question 1, female name, movie trivia. Here we go, Dan. Name the singer turned actress who played the title role of Evita in the 1996 movie Evita.
Madonna.
That is correct.
Yes.
1-0. Dan, question 2, over to Matt K. Matt, name the actor who played the lead in the 1982 classic Tootsie.
Dustin Hoffman.
That is correct. Those are the softballs. There you go. 1-1.
Yeah.
Question
Tootsie
3
was a softball? Jeez.
Question 3 bounces back over to Dan. Dan, name the movie in which Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, played a pregnant teenage girl.
Juno.
2-1 Dan. Question 4 over to Matt K. Matt, who played Frida Kahlo in the 2002 film Frida?
I had a feeling this might come up. Oh man, I'm just having a brain fart here.
Who played Frida?
Yeah. She was just in that movie with Owen Wilson. She's Selma Hayek.
Yes.
Wow. Way to pull that one out.
Thanks.
2-2. Everybody perfect. Question 5. Back over to Dan. Dan, Harrison Ford has starred in one remake of an Audrey Hepburn movie. It came out in 1995. Name the film.
I'm guessing Working Girl.
That is incorrect.
Mm.
Incorrect. Matt, you got a chance for a steal and to take the lead. Harrison Ford has starred in one remake of an Audrey Hepburn movie. It came out in 1995. Name it.
95. Audrey Hepburn remake. I mean, well, it sure ain't The Fugitive. Breakfast at Tiffany's? I don't know. I got nothing.
We're playing female name title trivia.
Tiffany,
we're looking
right?
Yeah, we're looking for Sabrina. Sabrina.
The Teenage Witch?
Vaguely.
Nope. Still 2-2. Question 6 over to Matt K. Matt, Jennifer Lawrence has worked 3 times with director David O. Russell. Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, and this 2015 film.
I hate this kind of question, man. This is one of those questions I should just know. It's okay. So it's a female name in the title.
Oh, wow. He's really getting the understanding of this round of trivia.
Yeah. It only took 6 questions here. Rescue me, Ryan.
Wow. Rescue me, Ryan, on question 6. Matt, it's about the Miracle Mop.
The Miracle Mop.
Do you own a Miracle Mop?
I do not own a Miracle Mop. I'm a Swiffer kind of guy.
Oh.
I don't know. Flo. I got nothing.
Wow, Flo, good guess, but incorrect. Dan, you can take the lead on a steal here. Jennifer Lawrence, 3 times she's worked with David O. Russell. Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, and this 2015 film about the person who made the Miracle Mop.
You know, I remember the trailer. I didn't see the movie. I got nothing.
Incorrect. We were looking for Joy. Joy.
It's amazing how those other 2 films are such must-see movies. Joy must have been a total dud to not...
It was not that good. No, I did see it. I believe I reviewed it here on the Jaw. Not very good. All right. It's still 2-2. Question 7 over to Dan. Dan, Jennifer Lopez's breakout role came in this 1997 film about a singer. Name it.
Singer, 1997.
Jennifer Lopez. Breakout role, 1997 film about a singer.
Yeah, I don't know. They're definitely getting harder.
Yeah. You do have a rescue. This is your last question to you if you want to rescue.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and do the rescue.
Yes, rescue me, Ryan, on question 7. Your clue is this clue will sell you. I don't know if that's even good.
Okay, so it sounds like that's a
I was trying to roll it off my tongue, but I can't do it that well.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Matt, you got a chance for a steal and to take the lead.
Is it Selma? Yeah.
We were looking for Selena. Selena.
That's the weakest clue.
It was tough to come up with something for Selena. If I knew something about Selena, I could have went with something else.
Could have been like an element. Selenium,
Yes.
you know?
Or like you could have said it's not Dion.
Oh,
Selena.
right.
I don't know.
All right. It is
Her name
2-2.
is
Last,
Celine. There's no
last
I know,
question.
but closer than Cell. Come on.
Tough crowd here, guys. It's 2-2. Last question of the game. Over to Matt. He can win it on a walk-off, or maybe not. Here it is. Matt, we all know that Sissy Spacek starred as Carrie in 1996, but who directed the movie?
Wow. That is a great question. That's a great question.
Who directed Carrie?
Who directed Carrie? John Travolta was in that as well. Or maybe it was Nicolas Cage.
They hadn't traded faces yet.
Or had they? We also had PJ Souls of Rock and Roll High School fame in there. One of her great.
It's great, but I'm asking who directed the film.
Who directed it? Yeah.
Dan looks really confident over there. He's
I know it's a really, really popular director.
Anything.
Yeah, no, I
Who directed Carrie?
Martin Scorsese. No, it wasn't Scorsese.
Completely incorrect. Dan, you got a chance for a steal and to win it here on a walk-off.
I'm just trying to think of directors, because I know it's not Spielberg.
Nope.
Dino De Laurentiis.
I know who did it. I know who did it.
Incorrect. Incorrect.
It's De Palma, isn't it?
It is Brian De Palma, but you answered too late. The game ends in a tie 2-2. So it comes down to a jawbreaker.
Okay.
This question is over to Dan. Better Disney movie with a female title, Mulan or Moana?
Mulan.
Incorrect. It is Moana. All right. The real jawbreaker is this.
It never gets old there, Ryan.
No, it doesn't. The real jawbreaker is this. For the win, guys. Age of Sissy Spacek closest to. Matt, you got to guess.
All right. Sissy Spacek was in Robert Redford's last film, it came out about 3 years ago. It was about aging bank robber.
Right.
That was it. The Old Man and the Gun.
The Old Man
That
and the Gun.
was his last movie? Wow.
It was, yes. He went out on a high note, I think. It was a great movie. And Spacek, she still looks great, but she is definitely, if she's not 80, she's 78 years old. That's my guess.
Lock him in at 78. Dan, you got to guess. This is for
So I'm going to take the over or the under here. Yeah, I'm going to go 79.
We give that to Matt K. 71. You guys have really aged her. 71.
Sorry, Sissy. I did say that she looks great still. She really does. I mean, I was shocked at how amazing she looked in that movie. 71.
There you go. Wow. Can I get a virtual handshake here?
Yeah,
that was a good match, guys.
Virtual fist bump. There you go.
Brings us to the end of a very fun and entertaining Jaw. And first and foremost, we got to thank our guest, Dan. Thanks for coming back on Cinemajaw.
Oh, man. Thank you guys for having me. This was just a blast.
We'll have you back. Keep us posted on any updates and changes with the app, and anytime you need to plug something, Dan.
Yeah, we'll do. I'm going to hit you up with some topics. I've got some good ones I think you'd enjoy.
Nice.
Lay it on us for sure.
Okay.
Matt, we also got to thank our producer, our editor, Fill Me In, Phil.
Oh, always happy to help, guys. It would be anywhere else.
And we should also thank the sponsors.
Yeah, why not? We got to thank Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you'd like to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so by far is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And while you're at it, if you click subscribe, one extra button push from you helps us out a lot.
Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt K. And keep on jawing about the movies.